That light is on this picture. Hi, everybody. Oh no, that's too much light. Hi. Let's see what's going on. So I'm not sure if we are up and going. I'm going to check one thing real quick to make sure that we are. How are you guys doing? My phone is upside down. It might help if I turn it around. Okay, so it looks like we are live everywhere. Give me one moment to share it. I believe we're cooking now. All right, so it looks like we are live on all platforms. So we are going live tonight. I hope you guys are able to hear me and that it is clear. I went back and watched the replay of the first episode and it was really, really choppy. I do apologize for that. I was trying to try a new streaming today, but I had some issues with that one when I tested it earlier. So I decided to go back to this one. Trust and know we will have that figured out and squared away for our next one starting next month. I need somebody to let me know how this lighting is. It seems really bright behind me, but if I turn it off, it gets a little dark. Let's see. Is that okay? I'm sorry, y'all. I'm trying. Maybe I need to turn one of the lights out in the front. And then turn this one back on. Okay, we're going to go with this one. I hope that this works. All right, well, welcome to the second episode of In My Feelings. And trust me, I have been in my feelings all week long. I had some amazing conversations this week. I had some amazing conversations last week. I had some amazing conversations or some interesting conversations over the weekend as well. And it's been a little bit of a tough week. And how interesting and fitting that we're dealing with feelings when you have like a million of them going on. So what we wanted to talk about on tonight's episode was unpacking our feelings and what that actually means, what that looks like, and we're going to actually unpack some of my feelings, okay? So one of the things that, well, actually isn't really my feeling, but just something I have been seeing that a lot of people have been talking about lately was friendships and this thing of support. Maybe if I think we got it. This thing about support and people supporting one another. And what we wanted to delve into was what that actually looks like. Because you hear a lot of people talking about, oh, whether or not friends do this or friends do that, and where they show up at, and so on. And so, as you all, I don't know if you guys got a chance to watch last week's episode. But on it, we were talking about your feelings matter. And we talked about how our feelings were indicators, right? And they showed us things or pointed out things to us that our feelings let us know how we either like this, we didn't like this bothered us, this hurt, or this was good. And different things like that. So we went over that stuff last week. I don't want to go into all of that again. So take some time when you get a chance. You can go to my YouTube channel and it is there. You can go back and you can watch it. And what we wanted to break up today was, like I said, unpack some of those feelings. So when you hear a lot of people talking about, oh, my friends did this, my friends did that, and actually, one of my friends did a live, a Zoom, and she was talking about friendship during the pandemic. And we kind of delved into friendship and what that looks like, and people were discussing different things. And we kind of broke down some stuff and how we see it. And a lot of times, we all have not a lot of times, we all have our own perception of what a friend is. And in order to be on the same page, there has to be some communication, because sometimes we have unrealistic expectations that we place on our friends. Now, if you all have been on my newsletter, if you're on the distribution, you know that I talked about this one book that I have been reading and how I was walking through a lot of different stuff, and it was dealing with healing. And during this read, it was brought to my attention, I'll put it that way, that one of my sisters, one of my friends, I met her in church, and she's slightly older. She was older than me, and as most of the ladies that I connected with there were, and she kind of assigned herself as my prayer partner, and we connected, and she was like the big sister that my mom didn't have. God forgot to give me or something, and he tried to make up for it, and he gave me her. And like, she was just dope. Now, prior to meeting her, every friend that I had, I'd meet them, we'd get to know each other and see how we gelled, and we just fit wherever we fit in each other's lives, right? And so from that place and that point forward, what we begin to do is this. Hold on one second, y'all. Let me just grab something. I needed to pull something up, showing. But, and you would see how you guys gelled, what you can work on together, and you will move forward accordingly. And things were great. You either connected, had something in common, or you didn't, and you will move on. But after I met her, she was like a combination of different things. Like, she knew when I needed to be checked, because I had a mouth, and sometimes. But she knew when I needed to be checked, to check me, and she wasn't shy about doing it. But she never did it from a place of being. Okay, I was trying to pull something up. There we go. Of being mean or anything like that, and what we were able to do, then there were times where I just needed to kind of vent and get it out. And it was like, she just knew. She was like the perfect big sister. And it was awesome. Well, she passed some years ago. And everybody that I kind of met after her, and even those that I knew I knew already, I kind of expected them to move and get me the way she did, to understand me the way she did, to interact with me the way she did. But that was unfair because that's not who they were. But this is what I was expecting. So when God brought this to my attention recently, I had to take inventory over the people in my life. And what I had to do was evaluate them from this perspective of who they were individually and what they brought into my life, right? And so sometimes you're looking for them to be a certain way, but that's just not their makeup. And one thing that we hear a whole lot of people talk about a lot of the time is who supported me and so on and so forth. And we kind of talked about this on the Zoom meeting that I was telling you that I was on. And one of the things that I shared with the ladies was how sometimes we expect our friends to support what we're doing and everything we're doing. And it's like, but some of us be doing way too much that our friends, there's no way possible they can support and be at everything that we're doing if you're always doing something. And what if what you're doing isn't really something that is for them? It's kind of like, I have this one friend. She is really into real estate. And I remember she took me to this game with her, and it was with some of her real estate friends. And so all they're talking about is real estate, real estate, real estate. I don't understand that. I'm not interested in it. I had nothing to add to that conversation. So you know what I was? I was sitting in my seat enjoying the game. And it wasn't that I was being antisocial or anything like that. I just had nothing to add or gain from that conversation at that time. So I focused on something else. So sometimes you may be operating in something, it's just not for your friends. But one thing that I really want to make sure we get with that, right, is the fact that every supporter is not a friend. And every friend isn't necessarily a supporter in the method or way that you expect them to be. I may support what you're doing by praying over what you're doing more than you do. I may be praying about areas you don't even think to pray about. My prayers may be helping, aiding, and assisting you in this thing going forward. I may be the one that can help you behind the scenes and handle some administration stuff, some organizational things, some coordinating things, and making sure all your stuff is in place and you're ready to roll when you get there. That's support as well. I may not be at everything. I may not jump on every live. I may not purchase every single thing you put out. Anybody who really knows me financially, I've had some issues for like the last 8-9 years. And so I financially support what I can. And it's a lot of things that I just don't do. But if we look at people as who they are and get a value and value that from them, just value who they are and not put all of these pressures and things on them, then maybe we wouldn't have so many fragile, frail relationships and friendships that can easily be ended and started over a click of a button, delete, block, and and when we've reduced relationships to that, I wonder if we really understand what they are. So sometimes you're in your feelings about something that you're just gonna be in your feelings about because they're unrealistic expectations that we set, right? And so when someone isn't there, instead of being mad, did you have a discussion with them and say it would mean the world to me for you to be here? Or I need for you to do this, or it will be a great help to me if you did this. Have those conversations. And so one of the other things that I wanted to go over is that when you're taking inventory, everybody may be something different. So some of the things or people that I found that I have in my life, like when I have a lot going on, because first of all, I've told you all before, there's a million things that goes on in my head, right? And so when I'm sitting there and I'm overwhelmed, I know I need to talk it out, but I don't necessarily want to have that conversation alone this particular time. I may call my friend Monique. I call her when I need to bounce some things off the wall. First of all, how she sees things, we don't always see things the same way. And so I value the way she does look at things. I value the knowledge that she has. So I'll be talking to her about something and I'm just rattling off things and she'll be like, Shadi, what about da, da, da? And it'll send the whole thing in a total different direction. Or it'll be that one little piece that I needed to make it all make sense. But I had to, hear that other perspective. I was watching a video today And the young lady was saying how her mentor told her, you only want to play with people who want to play with you. Now, they took that in a different direction than I thought it was going to go in. But when I heard that, it sent off bells for me. You don't want to necessarily call yourself friends or connect with someone who absolutely, not necessarily, you don't want to connect with someone who hates you, right? That's something they got to work out on their own, and probably nothing you can do about it. So that's not a good connection. But someone who doesn't think like you, or y'all don't even have to have the same purpose. Y'all don't even have to have the same path that you're walking, right? They can be handling one thing. Like I said, Monique does real estate. I don't have nothing to do with real estate. And I do a lot of stuff in ministry. She believes in God. She goes to church. She loves God. She worships God. She praises God. But she's not going to be at every conference and every retreat. And truth be told, I won't be at that many more either. But she's not going to be at all these different things. Me, every time somebody posted that they was doing something, and depending upon what they said, the purpose or whatever was, I was ready, registering, ready to go, because I wanted to go eat the word. I shared their information, not so that they would share mine. I shared it because based upon the information that was shared, I believe that there are some people that can benefit from this, right? So that's the other thing. Oh, she shared mine, I guess I'll share hers. Or you didn't share mine, so I won't share yours. Like, come on, seriously. Are these the values that we're going to use in how we handle relationships? Absolutely not. Like, there's nothing there. That thing can be blown apart with just a slight blow of the wind. Now, I'm going to get back to the different type of friends. One of the friends that I think you kind of need, or that I have, is the pusher. And actually, I feel like I'm the pusher. But sometimes in some situations, I feel like I'm pushing too hard, and you start to feel like a bully. And so this may be someone in your life that you tend to shy away from because they're always on you about, hey, how's this going? Did you get that taken care of? But they're good as an accountability partner. They're good to show up when you get discouraged because you've been doing this thing and it hasn't really kicked off for you the way you wanted to, and you about ready to give up. But they can come and be like, hey, girl, how's this going? Did you get that thing done? And that conversation can either be good for you or bad for you, depending on how you perceive it and take it in. But they're necessary in your life to help make sure you stay on that path, because even though they may get on your nerves because they constantly got that thing before you, it's only before you so that you can win. That should be the basis or foundation of their heart. And if it isn't, then that's a different discussion, right? So then there's also the nurturer. This is that one that they're more gentle. They're the ones that's probably rubbing your back when you're going through. They're not the ones sitting there while you crying your eyes out about something. And they're like, where they at? Let's go get them. They may not be the ride or die, but they're going to be loyal. They're there. Their position, their words, their exchange with you is totally different. And you can't expect everybody to be like that, because sometimes you need that pat on the back. Sometimes you need someone to just tell you it's going to be okay. And sometimes you need that one that tells you it's not going to be okay unless you get up and do what you need to do. This thing is not going to happen on its own. You're going to have to put your foot to the pedal. So you need both of them. It's called and creates balance. Now there's this other one, and I kind of gave it a funny name, but it's kind of like having that librarian in your life, right? I call them the librarian because they're very knowledgeable. They have a lot of information. They have a lot of history. Like, you can say something and they'll be like, oh no, because da 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 da. And they can kind of be annoying. And sometimes most people who don't understand them or haven't yet learned to value what they add to their life have called them a know-it-all. And sometimes they get shunned in a lot of situations. And it's because people don't know how to take that. Like, I have one in my life, and I hijacked her whole morning on her birthday and had a whole part 1 and part 2 history lesson. And then she called me today with part 3. Yes, I appreciate it all that time, because what happens is they love information. They love knowledge. They are stern and strong about education. And so they've read a lot. They studied a lot. They've taken in a lot of information. And so they're always ready to pass it out. And so sometimes you may missay something or whatever, and they may correct you, be like, no, well, really, it was this. And that can be annoying, like I said earlier, if you don't realize that it's really just helping polish you for how you go forward and what you speak about. Well, I appreciate them in my life because what they do is they're able to take in all that information they have, give it to me in such a way that I can process it, take it and go back at my own leisure and further study and get more knowledge and understanding about that. They can focus you. It's kind of like you want to do something, you don't know where to start. And they'll be like, oh, well, here it is, blah, 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 blah. So now they've given you direction. They've pointed you in that direction. And now you're equipped with information. You know what to look for. You know what kind of questions to ask when you're encountering people in those different industries or fields or whatever it is that you're working on. So they're valuable, but you have to change how you see them. So if you have that person in your life as a friend and you're like, oh, they always got something to say. They think they know everything. I challenge you to take the information that they're giving you and see how that applies to your life. It's changing our perspective on things so that it doesn't become annoying, overwhelming, team too much. You need them. Trust me, they're a big help. Another one is the disciplinarian. So they probably always correcting something that's going on or whatever. But if you're one of those who, like for me, I'm not very disciplined in my eating, but I want to get healthier. I want to get off the medicines that I have. And honestly, I almost didn't do this live today because I just did not feel good at all. My head was hurting. My body was hurting. My back was hurting. My stomach was hurting. I felt a little weak, but I pushed through. And so having that disciplinarian is kind of, they may annoy you. Like my sister is committed to her health journey, her healthy lifestyle. And so at one point she'd be like, hey, did you do this? Or she would send me this video. Oh, somebody's live. Why don't you work out with me and all of this? And it was like, I'm just getting started. I need to go a little slower. But what I had to do for me, because I knew I still was going to need that encouragement when I was fully all in, I didn't tell her to leave me alone. I didn't ignore her. I didn't tell her to shut up. I didn't tell her, mind your business. I didn't do any of that. I allowed her to keep moving how she was moving. And I took from it what I needed in that moment because I know that there was going to come a time when I was committed. Like now I'm committed to it. And so now I ask questions and I may post something to my group with my cousins and my sister. And she'll say little tips, and I'm like, oh, that's good. And so the thing is, I let them move and pour out information how they do, and I take what I need and I process it as I can. Well, now here I am, and I'm doing better. And that might be why me and my body not getting along, because it's trying to figure out, girl, what you're doing. But let's be honest, me and my body ain't been getting along for a long time because I wanted to be skinny, and it is what it is. It's kind of like you should have thought about this years ago. So since it took years to get here, it's going to take some time to get where you're trying to go. But again, you need those people who are more disciplined in things in your life so that they can encourage you. And again, sometimes it can seem like it's too much. Just take from it what you need at that moment and put the rest in the bag on the shelf that you can pull it out as you need it. Okay, so another one is the intercessor. Everybody needs an intercessor in their life, right? They're the ones that when you're talking about something, we're going to pray. And like I said, you still got that ride or die who's like, she always trying to pray. I'm ready to go. Let's go do what we're going to do. But what that intercessor does is they intervene in the spirit realm and they block a whole lot of different stuff from happening. So sometimes because you ready to go off and they like, let's pray, because, I was kind of mouthy. I was the feisty one. I was the pop off queen. And someone always talking about let's pray or we're going to pray about it. And I don't want to hear all of that. Sometimes I just want to feel what I'm feeling. But that intercessor kept me out of trouble, right? And so even myself, like I eventually became an intercessor. I'm praying about everything. People be in the middle of a conversation on the phone telling me about what was going on, and I just bust out and start praying. So people who are different or think different or respond to life different than we do in every situation, they're good to have in your life because they help stretch you. They balance you out. Another one I had is an encourager. And they always have a word. But here's the thing. Sometimes we rely on that encourager to encourage us. But if they're always encouraging everybody else, take some time and think about them. Turn around and give them a word. Encourage them sometimes. It's kind of like that's the friend that they call the strong friend. If they're the go-to for everybody, who do they get to go to? So then another one is the one that I've been calling the ride or die. I call them the muscle. This the one that when something go on, they like, where they at? When we going? Who going? What happened? You tell me what happened on the way. And sometimes they matter. They valuable. I don't even want to unpack that one, right? But they matter. There's a value to them as well. And then, because they're not falling apart in the middle of the situation, right? So there's one part of the value. You know, sometimes they may need to turn down a little bit, but you still need them. Especially if you're that person who, if you're honest with yourself, seemingly allow people to walk all over you, treat you any kind of way. They're the one that'll stand up for you and be like, so what we're not going to have is this conversation. This is not how this needs to be handled. And, they'll intervene on your behalf. Sometimes, like I say, you may have to dial them back a little bit, but they'll stand for you, right? So the other one is the celebrant. Now, I think this is the one that most people want because they're always cheering you on. They're always celebrating. They're like, girl, yes, you did it. And sometimes they can kind of get on your nerves too because maybe the situation didn't turn out the way you wanted it to and something failed on it. But they like, girl, you better be glad because it could have been this. And it's like, but it still wasn't this. And sometimes you want to sit in that moment and stew over the fact that something did not happen or didn't take place the way you wanted it to. And they're just not going to let you. They're going to find the good. They're going to find the achievement. They're going to find what it is that you did accomplish in this situation. They're going to point you to the lesson and how that lesson keeps you from repeating certain mistakes again. And they're your cheerleading squad. They're always ready. Now, again, you want this from everybody, but everybody's not built that way. You know how you have some people that you say, I'm just not a morning person. Well, in the morning I get up, I'm ready to handle business. And I have to remind myself, everybody might not be up just because you're finally woke and fully alert. I'm cleaning. I'm doing all kind of things. I can make phone calls, emails, write. Stuff just pours out because I'm refreshed now. Now, by the time I get off work, depending on how that work day went, if I was reading a lot of documents, our conversation, I'm that friend that if you call me, I'm answering the phone. I can be asleep. I can be tired. I can be sick. I can be busy. The only way I'm not answering that phone is if I'm already on the phone and I'm trying to give that person my attention at that time and I just can't click over. But because you called me, I'm going to call you back to find out, make sure everything's okay. And even if I can't answer your call when you call me, I'm going to text, hey, I'm on a call, can't talk right now, but is everything okay? Can I call you back? Because the fact that you took the time out to pick up your phone to reach out to me, that matters to me, right? So I'm going to make sure you understand that matters to me. And I'm going to make sure that I go back and give you and return your call. So for me, I kind of expect that from everybody that's a part of my life. If I call you, answer the phone. If you can't answer when I call me back. If I text you, text me back. And if I've called you a few times and you haven't answered or called back or text, I start to feel a type of way. And that is really something that God is still dealing with me on. We're getting some understanding and we're kind of working through that, which kind of leads to that thing of rejection because that's where that really stems from. And so to really get me to that healthy place where these things don't matter, I start to look at them different. It's we got to get to the root of that. We have to deal with that rejection, and we're going to unpack that in a few moments. I'm not sure how much we're going to get through because it's already 9:30, and I told you guys I don't want to keep you late. 9:30 my time, 8:30 Central. But maybe you didn't answer the phone because you've been busy. Maybe you didn't answer the phone because you dealing with something and you just don't have the bandwidth to take on all of me. And so it's unhealthy for me to sit back and be like, well, something wrong, or to even get mad. I don't know why you haven't answered. I don't know why you haven't called back. I don't know why you couldn't even text, because in my mind, because this is how I move and operate with people, I expect them to move and operate that way with me. But maybe you're not really a phone person. Maybe you like texting. I'm not that big on texting. After we've texted back and forth 2-3 times, I'm ready to pick up the phone because I'm sick of pushing buttons. So, but if you're not someone who likes to talk on the phone a lot, texting is better for you. So it's one of those things where you kind of have to find the balance. Again, evaluate who people are in your life and what they bring to your life. Understand who you are and what value you bring into others' lives, and make sure that you are a value to their life and not someone who's draining the life out of them. And maybe you're in a place where you're going through a lot of stuff, right? And so it can possibly seem like a drain, but you need what you need, and just be patient with those people in your life. You know, we don't know what's going on with each other, because sometimes we only tell part of the story. There may be parts we're embarrassed about, but even that speaks to whether or not we actually trust the people that we call friends. And maybe we're expecting things from people because we believe that they're a friend, or that thing we like to call sis and sister and all of that stuff. And we believe we're at one place with people, but in their mind, it's not that deep. I know of you. I know some things about you. We've had some connections and some exchanges, but you may not sit in the same place in their life that they sit in yours. And that's okay. That may not be an easy pill to swallow. That may not be something you really, you know what I'm saying? It don't feel good to hear or to realize, but it may just be the truth. And sometimes what I found out about me is it's been some years of going through some things, and I had a conversation with myself, and I was like, girl, you kind of needy. So that's something that I had to work on. So I want to go ahead and I want to go back to the thing of rejection, because today we're talking about unpacking our feelings. And so that's one thing that we really need to unpack, is that the pain of rejection and how that makes us move. So what happens with rejection is there's a wound that's there. And so that wound is now how you interact with everybody. You encounter or exchange with everybody through that wound, that rejection. And it's like there's a part of you. So if someone tells you no, it takes you back to when you first heard a type of no. Sometimes you even go in the situation and you're expecting a no. It's kind of like rejection sets a tone for you. Let's not even talk about from a relationship yet. That's something we're going to have to, I think we'll unpack that next week, and we'll really delve and dig through that. But you apply for a loan because you want to buy a house, and the house you want has one price tag on it. But when that loan application goes through and it comes back and they say you're only qualified for this amount don't get me this house. So that's a form of rejection for you. And so because it's not the initial impact of rejection, what it'll cause you to do is it'll make you adjust and shrink, right? Sometimes what that rejection will make you do in that particular situation is, so it tells you you only qualify for this amount. So now what you're going to do is you're going to lower your expectations, and you're now going to lower the bar of what you're looking for. Now you're going to start looking in the price range that they're willing to give you. But just because you made some mistakes in your past, just because you didn't handle your finances and your credit all the right way, just because you weren't that knowledgeable in how to handle your credit and your finances previously, does not mean you don't know it now. It does not mean you're not deserving of what it is you want. It does not mean that you shouldn't be able to go after the things that you want. So instead of taking that letter or offer letter and saying, hey, this is what we'll give you, change the conversation, because I still want this house, and this amount doesn't get this house unless they're going to give me this house for this amount. This is the house I want. Don't lower your bar because they rejected your offer, right? So what you now must do is you go back and you say, what do I need to do so that you see that I can handle this, because this is what I want. This is what I'm going to get. And so because you've been rejected, and for me, my father wasn't a part of my life growing up. And I grew up thinking something was wrong with me, that's why my daddy didn't want me. And so what ended up happening is, in relationships with men or boys, as they started out boys, I sometimes accepted behavior and treatment just to be in the relationship. And if a guy wasn't interested in me for whatever his reason, it made me feel horrible. So this started to mess with my self-esteem. So I was very insecure. So if a guy was interested, you can get the whole world because I felt like I mattered. You saw me. Someone sees the value in me. And all of this stemmed from because my daddy wasn't there. But him not being there had absolutely nothing to do with me. And the truth of the matter is, it really didn't have anything to do with my mother. It traced back to his relationship with his father and his mother. And so as a result, because he never healed from his childhood wounds and his rejection, he didn't know how to be the father to me, unless it was on his terms. And so since my mother didn't want to agree to the terms that he wanted, he was cool being out there doing his own thing. Now, that same relationship he has with me mirrors relationships he has with other daughters. So what this did for me was, again, it made me look for that type of male love in unhealthy relationships. Now, again, I had a mouth and I was always ready to pop off and fight. So I wasn't in any abusive relationship. That was one. But it was more verbal. We kind of went at it a lot. And he cheated. I cheated, but he didn't know. But I found out about all his stuff. But it was an unhealthy relationship. And there I was until finally what wasn't extremely physical actually got physical. It's like, oh, wait, did you push me? Did you put your hands on me? So at that point, I was done and I left. And so because we argued and we got into it about things before, and I would always go back, he thought I was coming back that time, but I didn't, because I could not be in a relationship with anyone who felt like you could put your hands on me. And so thank God I had enough sense for that, because I watched him in relationships after me and how he treated those young ladies. And so, but even though I got out of that relationship, I was still in other relationships that I wasn't loved how you would expect a man to love a woman when you're in your right mind. And I can't even say that I healed from that rejection with my father. And as a result of even that situation, I had been in my sessions with my mentor. And one of the things that we had started unpacking was how my father's absence in my life affected my relationship with God as Father. And she kept sharing with me the thing of, you have no problem with seeing God as God or Master, Lord, and you as servant. But when it comes to that father-daughter relationship, you struggle. And it was so true because I didn't have a natural relationship with my father or with a father to understand what the relationship between a father-daughter looks like. Now, my grandfather and my uncle were very present in my life, and they were disciplinarians. And that's another thing. I had my grandparents had 5 children, 1 son and 4 girls. And so everybody worked. And at one point we were all living in this 2-bedroom house with a basement and kids, grandkids, everything. But we were all there. And I remember coming to this thing, like they were all stern. They were disciplinarians, even the women. And so in life, that kind of set a tone for me. I expect if you do right, things are okay. If you do wrong, there are consequences. And so what those consequences did was it created that same relationship between me and God. So if I do right, but if I do wrong, oh, this just costs me anything. You know, the Bible tells us that the wages of sin is death. And oh my God, my life has been one big sin. I'm going to hell. I'm not gonna have anything. Some of the relationships I've been in, I'm like, oh, I'm not ever getting married. I've ruined my chances. And so it was like, who is this God that you've created in your mind who is unmerciful, who's unforgiving, who's just this tyrant, and anytime you mess up, it's over. And so it's been hard for me to unpack that because all of my life, there's been a situation and consequences. It's cost me something. And I could never, even though God had forgiven me for things, and even people from exchanges we had forgiven me for things, I was still holding myself hostage to these situations. Now, all of this was because in my mind, my father didn't want me because there was something wrong with me. So now something being wrong with me has followed me through my life and showed up in different forms and different situations. And as a result, you're stuck. I mean, you're tough, you're stern. It's kind of, and people will be like, it's hard to connect with you. I don't think it is. I mean, I'm an open book. What you want to know, I'm gonna tell you. And I remember I went to this conference, the one Jake's does, the big one, MegaFest, and there were a few people that went together in this group, and we were all sitting. And so my god brother was saying, he was like, Mo, you gotta let your guard down. I'm like, my guard is down. I let people in my life. Like, how you think you got in here? And I responded, I was like, you can come in, you just better watch how you come in. And so what God was showing me was how even in that statement, that's a form of a guard. And it doesn't mean let people come in your life and treat you any kind of way, walk all over you, disrespect you, or disregard you. But you have to give people time and space because those people you're encountering, they've had exchanges that have shaped them as well. And so we have to allow ourselves to get to know one another. And that doesn't happen overnight. Sometimes you'll have those instant clicks, but even as time goes on, there's things that you learn about each other as the friendship or the relationship develops. And so you have to give that space. And sometimes people will say things to us that'll hurt our feelings. And again, remember, I told you all that our feelings are indicators of how we've registered a recent impact, right? And so some of the things that register as they make us mad or I didn't like that. No, you didn't like it, but it doesn't mean that what you just encountered was wrong. It could just be something new, something you're not used to. It's just something different. And so it doesn't register with you well because it's out of the norm. And so wisdom would be to unpack that, to explore that exchange. What actually took place? What did they actually say? What about what they said did you actually not like? Was there any truth to it? Was there any validity to that thing? Is there any value to it, even though it was something that in that moment you didn't want to hear? Because even though you didn't want to hear it, it may very well be something that you needed to hear. It may very well be the answer to what it is you've been waiting on. And sometimes I have this one friend that we always say this thing. She's like, it's not what you say, it's how you say it. And that's true. But there's this other part of it. Sometimes it's not what you say or how you say it, but it's how it is received. Some things, I don't care who says it, how they say it, depending on where you are, is going to automatically register with you in the wrong way. And it had nothing to do with them, and it had nothing to do with how they said it, but it had everything to do with where you were within yourself when you heard the information. But you're holding it against that person. So there's so many more things that I really, really, really want to unpack, and we really want to dig into. And so we will pick this up at our next session, which will be, hold on, let me pull up my calendar. I got too many apps open on my screen. Today's the 18th, so July 2nd. So we will be back live for our next episode, July 2nd, 8 p.m. Central, 9 p.m. Eastern, and we will be picking back up unpacking our feelings. Actually, this is what we're going to be doing, period. We just going to have different feelings and we're going to unpack them. But one of the things that I want to really pinpoint in on in the next session is the pain of the process, because there is a process to unpacking our feelings. There's a process after you unpack the feelings, because sometimes God will show you some things about you. And just because you know it, now that you it's before you, it doesn't mean it's over. Because now you have to do the work. Now you have to deprogram some things in yourself. Because if he's shown you something, it's probably something that you've been operating in. And so now he's switching and changing how you're going to move forward. So now you have to put in the work so that you don't continue in that thing. Because it's one thing to know it. It's another thing to understand it. And then there's another thing to put action behind it and actually implement what needs to be implemented, or withdraw, remove whatever needs to be taken away so that you can move forward effectively. Remember, what we'll be doing on these issues is unpacking so that we can heal. It's time for us to heal. We can't keep walking around as wounded women, right? Right. So we want to be healthy. We want to be whole. We want to be happy. We want to be able to lift each other up. We want to be able to pull each other up. We want to be able to cheer each other on. But sometimes we can't do that until we deal with ourselves. Sometimes there's some things that need to take place within us. So the next big area that we'll be focusing on after we finish unpacking and just doing some work on ourselves is the Black woman. I'm really excited about that. Like, there's been so much information coming in for that. But again, next week, July 2nd, we're going to pick back up on unpacking rejection, and then whatever else he gives us to really dive through. And I really think rejection is going to be a big one. So that's probably what we'll be unpacking and going through the process. I think that's a good one to go through the process and explain the process and the pain that comes along with it. You know, you heard people talk about growing pains and so on and so forth. So those things are true. It don't really feel good. So we have a few minutes left. And before I go, I want to see if anyone has any questions, anything you want to share. I'm trying to pull it up because this thing don't really show me what's going on. But next week we'll be on an actual different one. So I have it pulled up on my iPad so I can see any comments and stuff like that. I'll turn it down so it don't give feedback and things like that. Hey, everybody who's here. I see we got Viv, Sandry, Rashonda, Cynthia. Yes, rejection has more than roots. That thing is, it's so many of us that have that within us. We've all encounter rejection on some level somewhere, and it really shapes our focus, our view. And there was, I think I took notes in my notebook, but I was watching this video earlier today by Dr. Miles Monroe, and it was dealing with rejection and success and things, and it was really, really good. So when we come back on the second, I'm going to have some good points. We're going to have some resources. I may even have a guest. We'll see, depending on how much we have to unpack. If we don't have a guest, then we'll probably have one that lasts the third Thursday in July, because I want to bring someone on to really walk through this before we go into the next focus point. So we'll see. I don't see any questions come through, so we're going to go ahead and wrap up here. I wanted to share something really quick with you all. Just some quick little tidbits here. It says it's a dangerous place. It talks about being in our feelings. It says it's a dangerous place to be sometimes, but we must release them before they ruin us. And we're talking about our feelings. So journey with me as we explore and unpack our way through our feelings to emotional health and wealth. That's what In My Feelings is about. Always check in on you. Remember that your own voice matters too. And what I mean by that is sometimes we have so many other people's opinions, voices, views, and expectations, and we don't even know what we want. What we want, what we think, what we believe, what we feel, what we desire is now shaped by other people's expectations of us. That is so unfair. And that robs the world of the unique measure that you were created to give us, right? So the other thing is you have the power to build. Whatever life you want to live, wherever you want to go, God is giving you every tool and every resource that you need to do it. Sometimes you have to look in other places. You may have to dig a little deeper. You may have to take a step back from everything and everybody to be able to hear those things. But what you need to build the life you were created to live is right within you. You have the power to build. Trust your goods and add to them accordingly. And what that means is there are skills and gifts inside of you, talents inside of you. You may not be able to sing. It's all right. Maybe you can cook. Maybe you can pray. Maybe you can dance. Maybe you can preach. Maybe you can babysit. Maybe you can do hair. As you can see, even my wig wasn't cooperating today. So who knows? Whatever your goods are, whatever your gifts are, they're in you. Use them and add to them accordingly. Don't just rest on what you already know. Invest in you. Sharpen your gifts, sharpen your skills, and take that thing to the next level. And sometimes that just means simply following somebody who's doing what you're doing and they're already at the top of their game, and ask them some questions about areas that you don't know and continue to grow, right? Lastly, never, which is what I just said, never stop growing. Never stop growing. Always be pliable. Never feel like you've arrived at a place and can't nobody tell you nothing. That's a dangerous place to be as well. That is all I have for you guys. I love you all so very much. Thank you so much for spending time with me. Those of you who will be catching the replay, I hope you enjoy it. Feel free to leave comments. Remember to like, share, and all that good stuff. Go to YouTube, subscribe, because if I have issues with this streaming thing again, I'm not sure if I'm going to go live on Facebook. I'll probably just go live on YouTube. So be sure to go there, hit subscribe, and the little bell, and turn on notifications. You'll know every time I go live. Again, God bless you all. As always, keep it kingdom and take care of you. You have the right to heal. You have the right to be healthy. You have the right to be happy. You have a right to be whole. You were born for it. I love you guys. Good night. God bless.